are listening to my session and attending this webinar. It's good to see that we all working towards one common goal to educate the people in the community. Also a good for me to talk to many of my fellow Indians. It has been a long time since I left the country, almost close to 2 decades. But it's always good to give it back to the community and want to learn on that area. Let me share my slides with you. And please let me know if it is working fine with is it visible and working fine? That's
Yes,
great.
yes,
Thanks,
it is
talk to
visible.
many of my fellow
Yes, sir,
Indians.
visible.
It has been a long
Yes,
time since I left the country, almost
I will take
close to two
a
yes.
decades.
different
But it's
perspective,
always good to give it back to the
which is
community and
going to
want to
extend
learn on
what
that area.
Professor Goel was
Let me
talking
share
about,
my
and I'll
slides
bring
with
a
you.
interesting angle to it, which will be on the
And
social
please let me
media,
know if it is
because
working
social media
fine
is
with
one dimension
close
of
to two
Yes,
decades.
technology which all of us
Is it
very much
visible and
glued to
working
it, and
fine?
especially
That's
yes,
during
great.
the
yes, it
Thanks.
is
Talk to
visible.
pandemic,
many of my
the
fellow
Yes, sir,
usage of
Indians.
visible.
It
social
has been a
media
long
has
time since I left
tremendously
the country,
increased.
almost
And
close to two
Yes,
sometimes we
decades.
always
But it's
told
always
our
good
kids or
to give
our
it back to
students
the
that they are
community and
going too
want to
much time on
learn on
social
that
media
area.
and we are not able
Let
to
me share
leverage on
my
the
slides
and I'll
with
bring a
you.
interesting angle to it, which will be on the
And
social
please let me
media,
know if it is
because
working
social media
fine
is
with
one dimension
close
of
to two
yes,
technology
decades.
which all of us
Is it
very much
visible and
glued to
working
it,
fine?
especially
That's
yes,
during
great.
the
yes, it
Talk
is.
to
pandemic.
many of
Do
my
not
fellow
Yes, sir,
underestimate
Indians.
visible.
It
social
has been a
media
long
has
time since I left
tremendously
the
what the social
Yes,
media
decades.
how people
But it's
can
always
our
good
kids or
to give
our
it back to the
students they are
community and
going too
want to
much time
learn
on
on that
social media
area.
and we are not able
Let
to
me share
leverage
my
on the
slides with you.
advantages social media brings
And
into our
please let me
social
know if it
media,
is
because
working
social media
fine
is
with
one dimension of
yes, it
technology
is.
which all of us
is it
very much
visible and
glued to
working
it,
fine?
Yes,
again it is related to what's happening at the moment. The more and more time we are spending online, the more and more thing we are doing online in terms of webinars and online sessions or blended learning or going through the distance learning and so on. The issue of the social media will be able to accommodate some of the challenges which we are going to have. So let's go through the agenda for the day. I'll be talking about what is social media, very brief about it, and how social media. Again, most of the participants listening to me is from India, so again we will see that how social media has been growing in India and so on. The issue of the social media will be able to accommodate some of the challenges which we are going to have, and what will be the effective use of social media in learning aspects. I'll be talking about what is social media, very brief about it, and how social media. Again, most of the participants listening to me is from India, so again we will see that how social media has been growing in India and so on. The issue of the country in the beginning of the year, where the global population of 7.75 billion, and if you look at to the internet penetration, it's almost 60% of the world has connectivity to internet, and close to half of the population in the world are active social media users. So there is a huge potential. We always looking from the positive side of it. Internet has really transformed the way we are learning. You don't need to have a classroom, you don't need to have lectures, you don't need to have physically talking to the lecturer. The knowledge is everywhere. So making the use of the internet connectivity and the usage of the internet, and again tying up with how do we use social media, is bring a lot of opportunity for the whole world. So again we are looking into that how digitization can help not only during the COVID-19, but it can be always used throughout the learning delivery. How the academician, whether they are professors or whether they are even the high school teachers or even the young school teachers, who can leverage on the social media because of the advantage and the free availability of the internet. Most of the places is very cheap. Um Now again, if I look at this statistics, which is very recent, India is having the second highest internet user in the world, which again gives me a thought. If that's the scenario, the application of the internet as well as the social media has a lot of opportunity in the country. If you look at most of the countries listed here, apart from some of the developed countries like United States or the United Kingdom, we can also see most of the countries here are mostly developing or emerging countries, and especially from India, Indonesia, Brazil, Japan, Russia. All of these are looking at the very big number of the internet users. So that gives us a thought that if we have so many internet users in India or maybe in other developing countries, are they utilizing the internet for the right use?
there are a lot of misuse of internet. People are sharing fraud information, people are sharing things which are not relevant to the area of research or maybe their expertise. But people do spend a lot of time on internet, but what they are using it, again, it gives a thought whether the students, whether the academicians are using it for the right purpose or not. So that's the whole notion behind it, if we are looking into the internet users and internet usage across. um, Again, if we look into the time spent on internet, again, these statistics are relevant because this is going to give us a thought that whether the internet is being really used, rightly used in education or for the right purpose. If we look into the time spent per day, we can see that the worldwide average is roughly around 5 hours 43 minutes on a daily basis, and India is having somewhere around 6 hours of 30 minutes. That means on a daily basis, a internet user who will be 16 to 64, and we are talking about the students in that age group, especially the students who are in the age group of 16 to 24, for example, and also the working population. Almost a quarter of your day, or maybe half of the day which you are being active, because maybe 12 hours, maybe out of 12 hours, 8 hours you are sleeping, so, and goes by with your food and all that, half of your productive time is going to be spent on the internet. So are we using it productively or not? So that again give us the thought that there is a lot of opportunity available by utilizing the internet. Now again, everybody knows what is social media. Definitely we talk about social media. Social media is a platform where we are creating and sharing content or knowledge or information with our fellow friends, colleagues, and so on. So most of the time we are using social media platforms like Twitter, YouTube, Facebook being the popular among all them, Twitter among mostly in the industry, again in the academics as well. LinkedIn is among the professionals who will be using it. And if I see that the number of people who have social media usage, you can see that the penetration of the user is almost 50%, which I told you earlier. But the growth is tremendous. Every year we are adding almost 10% of the users on the social media platform. And having a mobile, a smartphone, and having a connectivity or data to use these platforms is tremendous. Almost everybody is using mobile, and they have access to all these platforms. In fact, all of us, we are in this seminar. If you just open your phone, you will see that almost all the social media platform which I have highlighted here, at least 5 out of 6 or 7 out of 8, for example, you will definitely have in your mobile. So there is no harm. Sometimes people complain that why you are having so many platforms, but having the platform is one thing, but rightly using is another aspect of it. So again, we have the opportunity to talk about in that. Now, uh, there are many social media, right? We are talking about all the way from Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, and so on, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat. But if you look into the world most social media platform, we can see that the biggest number coming from Facebook, and followed by YouTube and WhatsApp. Again, Facebook is the most common one which people are using it. I don't know what are the major purpose of the Facebook, because I do not have that access, whether it's just to connect with your friends, family, your colleagues, and so on, or are you using it to read some news, or are you looking at what's happening around the world, are you looking it to mark yourself safe during the crisis time, and so on. YouTube can be looking again at the videos which can be across every dimension of your life. WhatsApp is more important for the messaging services, and so on. So these are the most common ones which we are talking about, and the numbers are tremendous to see that the number of users glued to it. So so if we look into the again, going back the earlier data which I shared on the time spent on the internet, which was 6.3 hours for India and around 5.45 hours for the world. Out of that, a good number of hours is only spent on social media. So you might be working on the rest of the day, but almost if I see the world average, almost half of the time of the internet usage 50% of that time is going to spend on social media, of all the channels, of all the platform which I just mentioned about. If I look at the Indian average is 2 hours 24 minutes. Again, the same age group of the people, 16 to 64. So again, people are spending close to one quarter, or almost one third of the total hours they are spending on internet. So there is a huge opportunity out there when people are using internet and people are spending time on the social media. So this is a general background to talk about. Again, from the Indian context, if I look into that, how much time is being spent, daily time for any channel is 7 hours 47 minutes. Average daily time spent on social media will be 2 hours 32 minutes, and so on. People are really looking at the viewing online, for example, streaming Netflix, YouTube, and so on. At the same time, also listening to the music. So this is giving you a background of how powerful is the usage of internet, and how powerful is the usage of the social media in India, so these are again some statistics to back up. If I look into from the Indian context, the social media platforms, surprisingly YouTube have surpassed Facebook. So globally Facebook is the most used social media platform, but from the Indian data, which is the January last year, because I didn't have data for this year, YouTube has a 4% advantage over the Facebook, but the number one, two, and three doesn't change much across the world. It's again the YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp, which is going to be used for that purpose. Now, again, if we go back and break down further to look into the audience profile of the social media usage, the bigger group is coming into the two segment, which is the 18 to 24 years old and 25 to 34 years old. Now, this is the segment which we are talking as a student as well. Some of them are learning their higher education here, who are just starting their degree program, and some of them will be in the year 25 when they're going for their masters or PhDs or maybe the higher certification. So the huge amount of advantage, or the users are available on the platform, which are basically the two-third of the overall population. So these are the people who we are targeting when we are using the social media or internet towards the education purpose. A huge opportunity again in that context. So that was a background about how social media, the penetration, the statistics on social media and all. Now let me focus on how social media can be used in that aspect. No surprises, especially Max will agree with me when we walk into the classroom, especially teaching a finance module. We will look into that, what's happening in the overnight. How the market performed, for example, what was the stock market performance, what Warren Buffett was tweeting about, or what Bill Gates were tweeting about, and so on. So it all goes back to look into that, whether the faculty is using it or not. Especially, I believe in the developed part of the world, social media has become a norm. For example, I myself is one of the top 100 influencer in the fintech, top 5 in the world for the regtech social media. So again, I am very active on social media. I use Twitter a lot and LinkedIn to connect with my audience. And most of the professors are using social media. There was a recent statistic done in the US and found that 41% of the professors are using social media. Even those people who are from the old school of thoughts and those who are not so much keen on the internet or being active, now using social media platform to share the information, to share their paper, to share the research, and connect with the audience. Those were the early days when we were learning in the colleges or the universities, where we have to go to the library, or we have to even write to the authors to get the hard copy of the articles. But now you don't need hard copy of the article. You can just access the articles via ResearchGate. You can write to the authors online, or you can ask for the author's copy, and you can conduct your research. So social media is being actively used. Again, the purpose of using social media in education is more about interacting with your fellow colleagues, and also with the students, and also with the wider research community, whether in your home country or whether across the globe. So this has bring the borderless transmission of knowledge using social media. You don't have to always looking at sharing your in a big word. For using 250 words, you can share the key insight of what's happening on Twitter, and you can share the link about your paper, for example. Just summarize the keywords, and that's becoming a very powerful tool to communicate. A Twitter, I don't know how many of you have read recently, but a Twitter was used for the Bitcoin scam 2 3 days ago, and every major people, in fact even Bill Gates, for example, account was hacked, and people were sending or talking about transferring the Bitcoin over the thing. So Twitter can really transform how the people are interacting, and definitely it is becoming a norm in higher education, and it can be used for that purpose. Now there are always two school of thoughts, one who will be promoting it and one who will be always criticizing, saying that social media is just waste of time. You are not I always get a complaint from my 10-year-old girl that I always see you on the phone, and you always tell me not to use the phone. Then I have to tell her what I'm using on phone. When I'm not teaching or when I'm not in the classroom, I will be using my phone to post my research via Twitter, or connecting with my audience on Twitter. So again, having a phone in hand, having an internet, playing around with social media, for example, even Facebook. These days, I don't go and look at the news channel. I will be just looking at the what's happening in the Wall Street, for example, or what's happening in the Financial Times, and those news come fast on the social media rather than waiting for the news to be updated on the physical channel via television and so on. So social media is powerful, and it all depends on how the audience or how the user of social media is using it. Coming back to the classroom, these days, especially during the COVID-19, all of us have to scramble to teach remotely. There was no classes going physically, no face-to-face interaction, and we are all going remotely to use the social media, sorry, the online delivery. And if we are just using plain slides and we are not using any interactive tools, for example, if we're not showing videos, if we are not showing what's happening in the media, then the students will be very much, we don't even know whether they are listening to your lecture, especially when they are online, because they can be physically available online, but they might not be interested. So again, in order to interact, in order to catch the attention, the faculty need to see that how they can be aligning themselves with the millennials, this Gen Z education, who are more tech savvy, who are more looking into the interactive tools. So then again, the usage of the social media, especially the YouTube and the Facebook platform, become important. I will share some examples later on that aspect. Again, when we are using social media, both the faculty as well as the student need to be responsible. We need to be very careful what we are sharing and what we are teaching. Sharing a content which is not your, which the faculty is not authorized, is a plagiarized content. So always look for the Creative Commons tag there if the videos are available to be shared. Please do not share any videos or links which you are not authorized. It can be a private property, and you can be fined or you can be prosecuted for it. So again, the responsibility, it falls on the faculty. Again, the providing the links to the student is the responsibility of the faculty. So if the content is private, the faculty should be very careful. You can have the videos from good universities, you can even have videos from the Harvard, MIT, and so on. But if it is not used for the public viewing, please get the permission before you are sharing with that. Again, when you are interacting on the Facebook, don't make it as a common channel, because your students are not your friends. For example, you should be using closed groups. So for example, if you create a closed group on WhatsApp or on Moodle or on Teams, they might not be interested, because they might not be opening the platform of education platform for the learning purpose. But all of them will be on Facebook, definitely. So if you create a closed group, for example, if I'm teaching a class of the batch of 2020 of MBA finance, for example, I will create a closed Facebook group of corporate finance class for my students, and only the students will be part of it, the closed group. So instead of making it public, the discussion will be within the group, and it will be a healthy discussion between the participant. Most of us also maintain a very good page where you can have your own blogs. LinkedIn is becoming a very important source in sharing the information, in writing the articles. So try to maintain a good blog for your students, which goes beyond the teaching, and that can be used. So using LinkedIn these days, writing an article and sharing with your student as well as for the wider community will become an effective tool in disseminating the knowledge. I will pick up some of the common ones which we use. For example, Google. I don't know how many of us go to Google Scholar, but Google Scholar is the best way to look for the articles. This will be the key things which you are looking at instead of directly searching on Google, which will give you all type of hits. Whether it is a news article, it can be also unverified information. But if you are looking for the scholarly articles, I will advise the faculty as well as to the students who are listening to me here. Go to Google Scholar and look for the keywords, and there you will see the articles in your area. For example, if you search my name with the finance, you will see the articles which are in the areas of investment portfolio, corporate finance, and fintech, for example. And these will be also ranked according to the relevance. For example, the highly cited journals will appear, the most relevant research in your area will come out. You can also use Google Drive for sharing the information. Instead of sending big files via emails and so on, you can have your own class, own subject Google Drive, where you can share more information with the student can also share their written work, their draft of the assignment, and it can be edited online by the teachers, and you can provide feedback on that. Google Hangout is again a free platform to hang out with your colleagues, with your students, and have a discussion. Sometimes we also face students from different part of the world, for example, who has English is not the first language. Again, in most part of the world where we have students coming from China, for example, or coming from Vietnam or Central Asia, some of them do not have a very good background. So again, Google Translate can also help in getting the key message out there for the students. Sometimes they use that. So Google is again a powerful. I don't think we can live without Google. It can be really used for enriching your research experience and looking for the information out there. um, uh, what are the advantages if I look into that? Again, we are looking into web based storage using the Google Drive, which gives you a very healthy storage capacity on a free basis. You can also look into the documents of sharing, editing, and so on. Google Scholar, for example, if you are looking for particular article, if you're looking for particular researcher, just go to Google Scholar, identify the profile, look at which are the articles, who you want to collaborate. Many of times I get my collaborators or co-researchers who will find me via Google Scholar, and then we will combine to work together. So again, that becomes an important, sharing the information, sharing the files with the co-authors, all as well with the students, are the important areas where we can exploit the advantage of Google, for example. um, again, most of us in the universities use many of the online platform. In Nottingham, I used earlier Moodle. Now I'm using Webspace in other universities. So there are many platforms. Moodle is one of the very powerful one, which is again a university based platform where we are looking at all the functions what we do in a normal social media platform. So again, we can use for chats, we can use for announcements, we can use for forums, we can embed videos, PDF, PowerPoint, and we can also use the one of the important thing of these online learning platform like Moodle, Webspace, is the usage of Turnitin, because especially during the COVID-19, many of the universities has resorted to the alternative assessments. We cannot have a physical exam, right? So we went into the assignment or take home exams or case study submission via the online channel. And the students are students, so they might be tempted to plagiarize the work or collude with their friends to produce a common type of work. So we also have to look at the plagiarism threshold, how much they can copy from the online resources or how much they can copy among themselves. So we also can connect Turnitin which is a software to look into plagiarism, and that can be also embedded into your online platform and can be used as a tool to identify the level of plagiarized work in the submission. So that is also important to look into that. uh, Facebook, I always get criticism that why people are spending too much time on Facebook. But I believe Facebook is a really powerful tool in terms of teaching. I use Facebook for most of my MBA classes because there you can have a lot of discussion. Why using Facebook for discussion is that whether you accept it or not, most of us, almost every one of us, if I say almost everybody who is listening to me or have joined me in this session, definitely you have a Facebook account, and you will be tempted to use Facebook once in a while on a daily basis. If I share an article on the Moodle, my student might not be looking at it because they will think, okay, it's all about teaching content, and maybe the lecturer is sharing information. I will look at it when I get time. But if you want to look at their mobile, and if you want to look into Facebook, definitely you will be sharing that they will be browsing through their Facebook page. So creating a close group on Facebook, I do for my each cohort, because I do not add my student as friends until they graduate, because students are in students and your friends are friends. Students can become your friends once they have graduated, once they are working, and some of them might join. So I can't add them. So I only create a close group where I add all the students within that group, because all of them will have a Facebook. And then, for example, if I'm teaching a topic on equity capital, for example, what's happening in the equity capital apart from the general discussion in the classroom, I will be sharing the recent happenings, and even the other students will start sharing the recent happenings, and there will be discussion going on. And that can be a easy way or a fast way to communicate to each other, because you don't check emails on a regularly basis, especially when coming from lecturer. You like it or not, students will think, okay, I will check later when I get time. But if you are sharing the information on Facebook, they will be looking at the information at that point of time, or maybe in a shorter time duration. So that's the advantage Facebook brings when you are interacting with the student. So start using it, but it not will be public. Some information can be public. If you are writing an article and you want to share it to all the people who have access to the Facebook, then you can make it public. But it will be good to share the content related to the module which you are teaching, especially in the closed group, and that's the advantage of the Facebook. Twitter is my favorite, and many of the established academics are using Twitter, because Twitter is sometimes tagged to the people who are more mature. Facebook is for everyone. So sometimes we always get criticism that Facebook is not for pure academic, but Twitter is definitely the reason why, because Twitter is very spontaneous. The moment a news is out, you can get different views coming from the experts, coming from the author themselves, and that shows the importance, how many times the topics has been discussed, and you are getting different perspective. Given that it is only 250 word, which is an increase from 150 earlier, you are trying to concise the information in the short time frame, in a shorter message, but you are still sharing the key things. The hashtags are very important. For example, if you just put a hashtag fintech, regtech, and my name, for example, you will get all the links with all the discussion which I have on Facebook, on Twitter with my students. So again, sharing your Twitter account with your students will also keep them posted, because they do not have to go to any other channels. I tell them that you don't have to go and subscribe to FT or WSJ or Bloomberg. You just subscribe to my Twitter channel, and you will be able to get what's happening. Sometimes during some hectic day that the university, you don't update regularly, but on a daily basis, I usually have 15 to 20 tweets, which can be more on a given day, if I'm not teaching or I don't have meetings. And that helps me to connect with the fellow colleagues who are doing research in that area, not only with the academic but also with the industry, and that brings a lot of industry experience into your higher level teaching, especially for your masters, your MBA, where you are more looking at the interactive, the implications are more on the market, and so on. Professor Goel and Kshitij, please stop me if I'm going overboard, because this is a very topic very close to my heart.
Yes, sir. Sir, the next speaker is waiting, sir. So
Okay,
kindly.
so if I okay, so I just got a update that I need to quickly move on. YouTube will be a similar thing. You can use YouTube for schools. Subscribe to the channels or the topic ones. Even the lectures can record their own lectures, and you can post it online, especially on the key topics. TED Talks is very important to learn the discussion and so on. So YouTube is also adding to that. Um Sometime we can look into how to create the playlist, so the video should be interrelated to the topic which we're talking about. Instead of sharing one by one, we can even create a channel. We can have the playlist, and all those playlists will be talking about the same thing. Even the academics can even sign for the YouTube for schools, and they can bring the classroom environment into that. Sometimes we can also disable the comments to have a better interaction, because students or anybody who is writing there can be trolling you or putting negative feedback and so on. So that can be look into that. I just want to quickly look into the LinkedIn, which is the important thing for all of us. It's not only for finding a job, but it's also sharing the information, connecting to your peers, connecting to your colleagues, and also connecting to your students. So this is becoming another important area where the students and the researcher can get advantage in sharing the information with each other. And especially after graduating, that's a very good important way to write a recommendation for your student, and they will be able to get a job. We are using all these chat platforms, especially during the COVID. Zoom and Teams have become, at the moment also we are using Teams, but these are free platforms which can the telecommunication, chat, and also the interactive discussion. We can have any speaker from anywhere in the world, and they can share the information on that. Again, I will skip this part for in terms of the educational inclusion. Social media can be a powerful tool for the people who do not have access to classroom, especially in the rural areas, which can be used on that. I think I will leave the drawbacks, because it's I'm only talking about the positive thing here. Do not waste time on social media. It can be a distraction if it's not used properly, and it can also expose students to inappropriate content. So it's all come down to how do you monitor social media, how do you effectively use social media, and that can become a powerful tool in terms of disseminating the knowledge, finding the knowledge, and utilizing the knowledge. So I will conclude with harness social media for education. Thank you.
Personalized learning first one. Then creation for individual progress.
That's all from me, Kshitij and Professor Goel. If you can take over.
Thank you. The fees are.
Thank you, Professor Alam.
Thank you everyone. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, sir.
There are so many models available.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Please wait.
Thank you, sir.
I'll thank him
Nice
also on behalf.
presentation,
Thank
Professor.
you, Dr. Nafis Alam, for enlightening us through your deep knowledge of the discipline. Now we are going to listen to an exceptional
Thank you,
academic
sir.
and researcher, Dr. Max Rolinski from Nevada. He is very highly valued by presently. He is teaching at University of Delaware, United States of America. Dr. Max Rolinski will be deliberating on challenges and opportunities when teaching online, adapting to COVID-19. I invite Dr. Max Rolinski.
There will be.
Hello, everyone. Audio is good?
Yeah, your voice is sounding
Okay,
well.
great. Thank you. Okay, let me share the slides here. All right.
Yes, it's visible, Professor Max.
Okay, great. And I'm actually gonna need help of somebody. Maybe Professor Alam, if you can I'll ask a question later, and then I'll just kind of keep an eye on the chat room for me, and if anyone has an answer. But first,
Yes.
I'd like to thank, I'm very much honored to be here, and I'm already enjoying the lecture. In particular, actually, Professor Goyal, he already kind of said many things I was going to say, so we can skip half my presentation. I very much agree with him on blended content is can be very powerful because now you can do more, right? So you increase in your toolkit, and you as technology, like it seems like every week,
Max, kindly
Okay.
unmute yourself.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Yes, so it does take work on the faculty side to do more, and for us, we need to keep up with those tools. But if we do, I think we realize how much more we can do. And the fact that we're all here right now having this discussion is an example of that. As far as what Professor Alam said on social media, I 100% agree. So I bring in LinkedIn into my classroom, and even outside the classroom when I mentor students, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I think it's an excellent tool for networking. It's great for connecting my students to alumni and other industry professionals. It also just provides a lot of content. So instead of following news, on top of that, you can just choose some of the experts that you can follow, and then you get your news essentially just by logging in on your LinkedIn, and you're seeing your news feed, what's happening. In fact, while Professor Alam was speaking, I pulled up his profile on LinkedIn, and I can see that he shares posts pretty often about the news. And so, I just clicked the follow button, and now, what he chooses to share is going to be a part of our newsfeed, right? At the same time, I could see that Professor Alam, we have a mutual connection, who's at Florida Atlantic University. And so it's just like you have all this information that other people can choose to share, and it's at your fingertips. So I think if you use it properly, so there's a lot of, you can do a lot with it. At the same time, of course, we all can, there's a downside where we can waste time. I personally actually shifted away from using Facebook, and I just kind of, I'm now going heavy on LinkedIn. So I just recently actually started, just this month, I started at the University of Delaware. But as I was leaving my previous job, Central Michigan University, I just made a post thanking everyone and saying what a great time I had there. And then I had 50 comments of students and other faculty just kind of thanking me. And it took a whole day to reply to just one post, right? So like 50 comments, but I made every response, like thank this person. So one way to look at it is I just wasted the whole day on social media. Another side of it is I just spent a day investing in my relationships, and LinkedIn made it so much easier because I was able to connect with 50 people individually, one-on-one, in one day. Without social media, this would not be possible. So that's a compliment, but also what the previous two speakers said. I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I am focusing on the challenges, but also the opportunities that come from teaching online. So crisis, it comes with danger and opportunity. Here's one quote. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And Professor Alam helped me out, to see if I'd like to, without looking it up, of course, just kind of honor system. If you know who said it, please say it in the chat room, just the author of that quote. I'll rely on Professor Alam to inform me. I'm guessing we'll have somebody who knows. Are we there, or am I? This also demonstrates the danger of trying to engage your audience. Is it can get awkward to get a response from them. I will continue, assuming somebody got right in the chat room. So. So the quote is oftentimes a quote to Charles Darwin, of course, but it seems like Leon Magnuson is one who summarized Darwin's thoughts. He's at Louisiana State University. Now, the point here is right now we have a lot of change that's happening, and it's going to be some schools will adapt, and I think embracing online technology, that's the big thing we need to do to adapt to the new environment. And then there will be some schools that that choose not to do that, and and I think sadly they will fail. If the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. This is my first time using Microsoft Teams. I was actually hoping I could see the chat window so I could have see people participating. But also, I was kind of looking for somebody to know who said that. And the point here is we have, if you're in the college, you have the administration and the faculty, the staff, we have control over how much we are changing on the inside. We can choose to implement social media into our classroom. We can choose to go hybrid. That's going to be our choice. What happens on the outside, we don't have control over that. And the change is happening on the outside, whether we like it or not, right? COVID, it doesn't matter if you like it or not, it's happening. And so right now, it's going to be, these, again, institutions that adapt are going to be the ones that are successful. And this was Jack Welch, the former CEO of GE, who said that. And then the last one, crises and deadlocks, when they occur, have at least disadvantage, that they force us to think. So I've been doing a lot with myself, as I'm shifting to teaching more and more online, I'm thinking, like, how can I deliver the same or even greater level of teaching? And in fact, I'm finding that as I'm finding solutions for the problems, I realize that my solution doesn't just mitigate the problem. I'm now actually further ahead. And so, and it's because it forced us to go back to the drawing board and forced us to think. And so the person said was Jawaharlal Nehru. Probably mispronounced it, but he was the first Prime Minister of India. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I will focus on just a few things. It's more important what I'm talking about is the framework that I think we should be thinking about. Let's think of the challenge we have now with shifting online or hybrid. And then let's think of a solution. And I bet oftentimes we'll find that there's actually an opportunity to be even further ahead as a result of this challenge. Student engagement, for me, that was the first challenge that kind of like terrified me. If I'm shifting online, how am I going to engage my students? When I'm in the classroom, I always, I interact with students. We have a discussion. I put them in groups. So as first I thought this all went away, and I have to shift to online lecture style. And it's not my teacher style. I love to engage. The example of me asking those questions on the previous slide was, part of me engaging the audience. And then I started finding out, start using all these tools, like Zoom in particular. I'm very impressed by what Zoom can do. In fact, out of all the platforms, actually, right now, Zoom is my favorite, although I don't know enough about Microsoft Teams and some others. Like Zoom allows you to put people in groups and still have your group work for students. And it has many other tools. You can quickly put up a poll and get feedback from the students. So my first I was worried about the level of engagement, and then I'm realizing, wait a second, actually I can do way more now, because now I can also bring guests. I'm going to talk about this in a bit, but it expands on you introduce a new tool to your toolkit, and now you can do more. The next one, and the one that this is the first two I'm going to focus to just in my presentation here, assessment. If we want to be honest with ourselves, I think we do have a problem that students may be dishonest, and if we give them one final exam and 50% of their grade is determined by that, we're actually putting students in a tough spot. We're saying, hey, we expect to be honest, but if you're not, you may miss out to some students who choose to be dishonest. So for me, that was actually also a concern. And then thinking of a solution, I came across specifications grading. I'm going to talk about it a bit, but it's also as a result of me thinking about finding this tool. I now found that this is potentially a superior, and I'm going to discuss what it is. And then like a few more. So faculty skills. In the spring, when we had to shift online right away, I wasn't, I was a bit intimidated. I have done engaged discussions through WebEx or Zoom, and so, but as a result of that,
Professor Max. Audience, please mute your audio. There is disturbance. All audience requested, please mute your audio so that we can listen the speaker well.
Yes, please.
Mute.
Thank you. And so, of course, the solution to maybe for us lacking faculty skills is for us to get trained and expand our toolkit. And the opportunity is obvious. We become better educators. And then the last two, I'm going to leave it up to the audience. And tomorrow also when we have a presentation we have cybersecurity concerns. I don't know what the solutions are, but I bet when we think of solutions, I bet there will be also an opportunity for all of us. And then accessibility, that's also one that I've been, I'm not sure what the solution is. So I had a question for Professor Gayal. He talked about synchronous and asynchronous classes. So for synchronous, when everyone is online at the same time, I think it helps with engagement. The downside, if somebody maybe has poor internet, or maybe somebody is working 2 jobs and is unavailable at that time, some people, maybe more disadvantaged people, will have less accessibility to log in, and they may miss out on the class. And so I'm actually not sure what the solution is for accessibility. For engagement, I think synchronous would be better. For accessibility, maybe asynchronous would be better. I don't know what the solution is, but I bet there is a solution, and it will present us with great opportunity. So I will talk just about the first two. It's more important, just again, the overall framework is what I'm saying is, with every challenge, we have so many tools right now, it's crazy. And I bet when we come up with a solution that's going to present more opportunity, and will be further ahead than when we started. So again, I find for it to be, it says my presentation ended, somebody else started sharing. Oh, let me see if I can get back into this. All right. So with engaging online, I believe synchronous is better. I believe, because this now allows you to have a discussion. You cannot ask a question and then have somebody follow up later without maybe facilitating some kind of online group discussion. But the downside, I think, is again that this may decrease accessibility for some who are either too busy or have maybe poor internet. I found Zoom to be, for me right now, Zoom has been superior, but I don't know. I haven't used Microsoft. This is my first time actually using Microsoft Teams, like with that much interaction. So when we do have class, in order to engage, I think there should be expectation that students are attending and that they have their webcams on. And because now, I mean, even for myself, if I'm sitting there and if it's a 2-hour class, if my webcam is off, I may just find myself being distracted. But if the webcam is on, people are looking at me, I'm more likely to engage. And so at the University of Delaware, this, in the fall, this is my first semester, but my expectations are going to be that everyone has a webcam. Now, my classes are 30 to 40 students. I don't know if if you have a class where it's, there are other classes that have 100, 200 students, maybe that becomes less feasible. So, and then we have what became possible with going shifting online. You can now host industry experts. So we did this. We had our informal kind of, we called it a Wall Street Journal Club at Central Michigan. And so before that, we would have maybe a guest come in once a month who happened to be in Michigan, in our town. Now we just went from having one guest speaker once a month to having one every day. So this is just a screenshot where I think some of you know the Dr. Anurag. So we had him join us, and he talked about the state of the Indian economy, talked about emerging markets. For our students, all the students on the call, for many of them, this is their first time hearing from an expert in India, right? And we had this lively discussion. I promise you that we would not have Dr. Anurag that day in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, right? If we didn't go online. So we would have missed out on that. And in fact, it became easier and easier to connect further away. Now the distance gets completely closed. And I think an advantage for Indian students who are looking to go in the job market, actually, this becomes an advantage because it levels out a level playing field. If you want to go into industry, maybe like in finance, and if you wanted to work internationally, before that there were a lot of the barrier to entry was much greater. Now, Facebook is shifting where they're expecting many of their employees just to work from anywhere. So now you can be, in India, and you will be competing with somebody who's there in Silicon Valley and have no advantage over you. So I think there's a lot of great opportunity, and those who will adapt will get ahead. This was just an example of, the two students. This was done in 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, we hosted all of those companies. So, and then there's Dr. Anurag right there from vocational school of University of Delhi. He was one of many. And then we had overall 50 plus guests who represented 30 companies. We adapted. This was not planned at all. We just adapted. We put it all together in 1 week and we started going. So right now, what you're doing here is an example that you're taking advantage of this. I would not be flying in India, for 20-minute talk, right? So now you guys are doing an excellent job adapting, and I think you will come out of way ahead as a result of this. Students on the call, you should be very grateful to your professors. Send them a thank you after this. Just this takes work. What they're doing is hosting. It may be easy for you just to log on, but this took a lot of work to coordinate and to make all of this happen. And they're not doing it because they gain bonuses, right? They're doing this because they genuinely want to improve your learning, and they increase the opportunities. So with assessment, what I recommend, what I'm doing is I'm shifting away from the exams. So, problem if you have an online exam, there are some anti-cheating tools, but honestly, I think that students are going to be at least one step ahead of the faculty in figuring out how to work around the system. And I don't even want to, I hate putting, most students are honest and they want to do the right thing, but I don't want to put them in a situation where they're forced with a choice. Be ethical and maybe, get a lower grade, or cheat and get a higher grade because now, it's online, it's becoming easier to do that. So now I started looking into specification grading, where the grade is kind of determined really by the student. They choose what kind of projects they want to complete, and it resembles more the real work environment where you're given projects and you complete them, and then if you choose to do more, you're likely to get a higher appraisal. So the way it works is, and it also saves faculty time if you choose to do as many projects. So I actually encourage faculty to look into it. Initially, when we hear about it, it's so counterintuitive, and we think this is
Yeah, Max.
Works. Yeah.
Yes, the time is running out. So
okay.
If you just hurry up with your presentation.
Okay. I appreciate the notice then. I'll wrap up then. Yeah. So specification is great. You can look it up, but but the students choose what grade they want to work towards. A, B, C, and then they complete more projects. And so, yeah, I encourage everyone to kind of think about the last two, cybersecurity, how we can improve it. If you have some ideas, I'd love to hear about, especially that last one. I'm not sure to do. And then just to conclude, students, your opportunities are expanding continuously. Again, you can work remotely anywhere. You can compete with somebody who lives in Manhattan, New York City. And in fact, your cost of living is a lot lower, as is mine. And so we can we have a competitive advantage, in some sense. So I looked up your university here, one of them, and just as an example, look at all of the opportunities, all of the companies that have hired your alumni, right? You have this, Accenture, EY, you have all those companies, you have American Express. Right now, you can reach out and, your faculty may know somebody there. Maybe they're past students. And you can even just check, hey, what are the future opportunities? Maybe in 2021, they're thinking about going fully online. And then now you can work for one of those companies, right, without having to worry about all those other things. And then also, if you are thinking about pursuing further education, there are many universities are shifting to they're offering more online programs, especially for international students. I know that at the University of Delaware, we have our online MBA, and then it has different concentrations. One of them that could be a good fit is business analytics concentration. So whether, if you do decide to pursue further education, look around, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to inform you about our program at the University of Delaware or any other programs around the country. I'd be happy to offer you guidance and help you get into that. But again, I want to thank everyone who's organizing this meeting, and I want to encourage students to really understand how much it's helping you, as you will see in the years to come, as it's preparing you for the workplace. So, and yes, thank you, professors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Max Dolinsky, for enlightening us through your deep knowledge of the subject. Now is the time for presidential address by an educationist as well as an administrator of very high repute, a source of great inspiration for thousands like me. Webinar President, Professor Sanjeev Mittal, sir. I now invite him for the presidential address.
So, Shadish, can you listen to me?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address the gathering out over here. And thanks for the high words which you have said about me. Basically, I represent the academic partner to this webinar, which is Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. It is a state government university, government of NCT, National Capital Territory. And friends, I am delighted that I have been made the president for such a wonderful webinar, which is on online education issues and challenges. Although much has been said about this online education issues and challenges, but since I belong to education and I have looked at delivering the online education very closely with my heart, therefore I have identified some of the issues which I thought I should share with all of you. The one very important issue when we talk in terms of online education is in terms of the lack of the human contact, which I have found that most of the students in India, they are basically looking in for something in terms of getting them addressed personally as compared to online. When we talk to the students and we ask them to what extent you are satisfied with the online teaching and learning, so they normally say, sir, it is becoming too much boring. It has become too much monotonous because we do not find any type of an interaction that can happen. Although opportunities are provided to them to ask the questions, but since face to face, say face to face question answer is not possible in case of online teaching, as a result of which they are finding it too much monotonous and too much boring. Second thing which I could see out over there is that as a part of this online learning, there is an absence of opportunities of collaborative learning. Friends, normally in education, we say if I have one piece of information and I share it with my students, and students also have another piece of information and they share it with me, I think both are richer. But in case of online education, I think there's one-way traffic. That means the person who is trying to address the students, he's or she is only speaking, and students do not have the opportunity to add out over there anything of their own. As a result of which, by the time the session is over and they want to ask question, I think most of those questions what they want to ask has already vaporized from their minds. So as a result of that, students, they normally tell us that, sir, there is a absence of an opportunity for collaborative learning. And I think for that particular reason, we really have to find out how exactly we can increase this collaborative element out over there as a part of the online education. The third issue, which is very pertinent, which I have basically noticed and has been expressed by my students, is that when we are teaching online, they say the teacher supervision is missing. And I think this is true because if I am trying to address a class of 60 students, I am not in a position to know to what extent they are trying to listen to me. And normally what happens is that they log on to my video or they log on to my online, say, class, but then I am not in a position to see their face. They have just posted their photograph out over there, just showing that they have logged on. And after logging on, either they are doing something else or they are just sleeping. I am not having any such type of a feedback. And as a result of that, teacher supervision, I normally feel is not present, is missing out over there. So I think this also we have to look into how exactly this element of what teacher supervision can be included out over there. Now, the fourth important issue which I have looked in for and has also been told to me by my students is that there is a lack of opportunity which they are trying to find as a part of the hands-on learning. And there are certain subjects, let's say, for example, I am teaching marketing research as a part of marketing. So when I'm teaching marketing research and I say, okay, fine, there is a type of a decision which has to be taken jointly by the marketer with the consumer. And for that particular reason, we do what is called a conjoint analysis. And I basically explain the theory part, and then I just want to tell them how to use this conjoint analysis. And then this type of exercise of doing the conjoint analysis hands-on is not possible through an online mode because I'm not in a position to share the data with my students, as a result of which they cannot practice. And since they cannot practice, they can only see my fingers working on the computer keyboard. And as a result of that, some type of a data is coming out of that. I think the type of the learning, what they're trying to have is not up to the mark. Because then they say, sir, whatever you are teaching online, I think we can also learn through YouTube. Then what is the need for you, sir? So that means the human intervention cannot be substituted, and we have seen that online education does not help us in terms of having this type of a human intervention. Now, another issue which I have looked in for as a part of the online learning is that students are not having that much technical proficiency. At least when I'm trying to talk in terms of a country like India, then we are finding that the students are not having that technical proficiency to basically decode the course material or to use the computer or to basically use the online platform in order to basically take these online sessions. And till the time the students have computer proficiency or some technical proficiency, I think they are not in a position to take advantage of this online platform. Exceptions are there for the developed countries where we have already looked in for that. They are almost, we can say, 350 years advanced than India, because I think they have already completed 400 years of their independence, and India has just completed 70 or 77 years of their independence. I think it is going to take a lot of time in order to basically use this online platform. Although India was lucky that because of this COVID problem in India, we started using this online platform. But then students are always complaining, sir, whatever you have taught us through online, it is better to basically mail us or basically send your PPTs. We are going to all understand through PPTs. So I really question myself, if PPT can be the only mode to teach. So I think then there will be no need for us as teachers. I think that we can just make the PPTs and give it to our students. But these PPTs need to be done, which I'm finding through online medium. It is not that easy for the students to understand these PPTs. Another issue which I have looked in for is that students are even not having the technical mindset. And since they are not having the technical mindset, they are really struggling in order to basically adapt to the online platform. And I think India is trying to gear up. And I was just trying to look in for the recent education policy where UGC has said, even our Minister for MHRD has also said that all those universities which are in 100 NIRF ranking will only be allowed to go for what is called as online courses. That means, first of all, the university has to come in these first 100 NIRF ranking framework. And till the time they do not have this first 100 ranking, I think then these universities are not allowed to run these online courses. As on date, if I try to look in for this higher education, UGC has mandated that only 20% of the courses can be made online. Rest of the courses have to be taught through on offline mode. We have a biggest university in India, and that is called as IGNOU. And this IGNOU is trying to deliver all these courses online. So another issue which I, yes, can I continue? Yeah, Shitish, can I continue?
Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
think
Please continue, sir.
there was some, I think, discussion or some disturbance. No problem. Another issue which I am trying to find is with regards to the time management. And normally we have looked in for that various types of articles are coming and they are trying to talk in terms of that when we are trying to have this online teaching, it should not be for more than 2 to 3 hours in a day. And I think we are trying to madly run these online courses right from 9 to 5. Students can sit over there in the classrooms in a physical mode and try to attend to the lectures of the faculty from 9 to 5, almost 8 hours. But I think teaching them through online 8 hours, I think is disastrous for them. So I think this is very, very important for us to understand that first of all, we have to basically emphasize our students that how to manage the time and therefore try to make them to adapt to basically learn through online and try to more glued to their chairs, because so far they do not have the habit to sit on the chairs and listen to the lesson online for more than 2 hours. I think online education is not going to be successful. Another issue is that when we talk in terms of online, I think we talk of different types of platforms. We have various types of organizations which are into online. Thank you. Thank you, please.
Herein, I would like to acknowledge a few names which I found out. Eminent professor from IGNOU, Professor Sunil Gupta, I would like to welcome you as well. World-renowned Professor R.P. Tulsian sir from Delhi University, and very senior professor, very learned Professor Dr. Sarla Sharma from Udaipur. We acknowledge your presence. Now moving ahead, while thanking the Almighty for all His countless blessings for the success of this webinar, I invite world-renowned cybersecurity expert and webinar chairman and patron, Dr. C.V. Sharma sir, to thank all those who have tried to make this international webinar a sweet memory of knowledge transforming into wisdom. Dr. C.V. Sharma sir.
Thanks.
Sir, you are not audible.
ओम पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदम पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I, Dr. C.V. Sharma, on behalf of DRCBS Cyber Security Services and Guru Govind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi, first of all, pray God, Lord Ganesh Ji, Ma Saraswati, and homage to my parents, late Pandit Badri Prasad Ji Maharshi and late Srimati Sudevi Ji Maharshi, for blessing us with the start of the first day of such a valuable international webinar. More than 500 representatives registered and more than 350 are there on the online. So this itself is a success to itself. Honorable Chief Patron of the webinar, Padam Shri Professor Mahesh Verma Ji, Vice Chancellor of Guru Govind Singh Indraprasth University, Chief Guest Professor P.K. Singh, Director MDI Gurgaon, learned speakers of today's session, Professor Krishna Avatar Goyal from India, Professor Nafis Alam from Malaysia, Dr. Max Dolinsky from United States of America, President of the webinar, Professor Sanjeev Mittal from GGS Indraprasth University, Director Mrs. Swati Vasisht, Advisor Dr. Didesh Gupta, Chief Coordinator for Media Dr. Ramesh Rawat, Mr. Ramesh Prasad Verma, Mr. Mudit Chaturvedi, academicians, dignitaries, invitees, all the participants connected online to this webinar and members of the organizing committee, a very good evening to all of you, sir. First of all, I would like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor Padam Shri Professor Mahesh Verma sir for his unconditional support and guidance for the success of this webinar. On behalf of the entire organizing team, I would like to thank our Honorable Chief Guest Professor P.K. Singh for taking his precious time out and consenting to the Chief Guest. Sir, indeed, your words are very encouraging for us and very rejuvenating to all the participants and members of the organizing team. I thank our respected President of the webinar, Professor Sanjeev Mittal sir, who graced us with his presence and support. Your support and guidance has been real inspiration behind this webinar, sir. Thank you for sharing words of welcome and your words of wisdom. I feel honored and lucky to have the opportunity to give a vote of thanks on this special day to very sincere faculty members, Professor Sunil Gupta and Professor Krishna Avatar Goyal, who have been brain and heart behind all this webinar, assisted by Dr. Ritesh Gupta, Dr. Ramesh Kumar Rawat, Dr. Ramesh Verma, Sachin Sharma, Mr. Mudit Chaturvedi, Mr. Vishrant Ojha, Satyendra Singh, and Balkrishna Sharma. I thank all the eminent speakers of today's session, Professor P.K. Singh, Professor Sanjeev Mittal, Professor Krishna Avatar Goyal, Professor Nafis Alam, Professor Max Dolinsky, on the various issues, challenges, and opportunities in online education and blended learning. Also, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the entire faculty members present online today. I would also like to thank the Students Committee and all the support staff of Guru Govind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi for the complete preparation of this webinar session. You have supported us in the best possible way for this webinar. Thank you wholeheartedly. Finally, once again, I extend my very hearty vote to Chief Guest, Chief Veteran President who spared time from their busy schedule to grace the occasion. I mention my deepest sense of gratitude and would like to place on record my hearty thanks to all the volunteers and technical team members. Because of them, we made this function possible. So I especially thank all those who have been in constant support for the success of this event. Our technical arrangement team always is best in class. Once again, thank you all. Thank you, sirs.
Thank you, Dr. Sir,
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you,
for
sir.
your appreciation and gratitude. Now we'll make the house open for question answer session. And for this, I hand over the control to Professor Krishnavtar Goyal sir with a request to coordinate the same. Over to Professor Krishnavtar Goyal sir for question answer.
Thank you, Dr. Kshitish. For question answers, I request everyone to use virtual raise hand option. You can use your virtual raise hand option and ask questions. Our experts are available. All three, Professor Max is there, Professor Alam is there, Alam and myself. You please, whenever you ask question, please unmute yourself. Introduce yourself with your name and your affiliation, and then you can put question. Please mention the name of experts also to whom you have question. Professor Max from USA, Professor Nafis Alam from Malaysia, and myself, Dr. Krishna Goyal, is also available for you to answer questions. So now the house is open, and I'm looking the raise hand. Just a minute. It's not the raise hand option, it's not coming on my screen, so you please unmute yourself and you can directly put your question. Introducing
Okay,
yourself, please.
My question is to Professor Nafis Alam. My question is to Professor Nafis Alam. Myself, I am Khalid Alam from Aligarh.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. My question is to Professor Nafis Alam.
Please continue.
Okay. The question is that that he has talked about so many platforms, the social media platforms, but these platforms, as we are using, mostly for the purpose of different type of communication, and the reason is that they have become very much effective in dealing with the different information which are being shared. When we are using this for the purpose of education, how far these PPTs or the different type of videos, they should be made so much effective that a student is self-motivated to go to that particular website or to go to that particular social media. So the effectiveness that will come once we are going to use that particular media in such a way and in such a manner that should be made very much effective, then only the student they will be switching over. So my point in this case is that how to make it so much effective so that the student they should be self motivated to go for this type of social media for education purpose. My question is very simple to Professor Nafis Alam. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid. I understand your concern. It all has to be educated and inculcated in the student. When we talk about simple PowerPoints or simple Word document being shared through the online platforms in terms of your Moodle or the learning platforms, the student might not be encouraged. But if you are sharing the information, for example, via Facebook, you are asking them to explore more. Now, if you look into the finance field, as for example, all of the financial news portals, or for example, even the research powerhouses like Bloomberg or Financial Times, they are sharing real time information, the research or what's happening in the media via the Facebook account as well. If you ask students to go and listen to the news, they might not be interested. But if you are subscribing to these, or if you are sharing the information via Facebook, since they are spending a lot of time on these platforms like Facebook or YouTube or other channels, they might be using their channels to further explore that. So it's all about educating them rather than just sharing. That you need to explain the purpose of why you are sharing this, because the people are always on the social media platform. They might be not always on the education platform, but most of the time they will be on social media platform. So that can be harnessed, and that can be used as further dissemination of the knowledge. You can't only use the social media. It is for the further learning or further extracting the information available on the web. I hope I answered your question, Mr. Khalid.
Just one rejoinder to this. The problem in this case is, take for example, finance you are teaching, and you have to teach this time value of money, for example. Then the example is going to be given to the candidate, to the student about that, and we are going to give the discount rate and the amount of whatever you are going to get in the form of inflow and outflow and all that. Explaining that with the help of this media, I think that becomes very difficult, because I have seen this in the last classes we had to take at AMU, and the students, they were not very much happy with that.
Uh,
So
I just
that
want
is.
to correct you. I'm not saying that you should completely avoid using the PowerPoint or the information. What I'm saying, for example, take the example of time value of money. Now, if you're talking about YTM or taking yield maturity, now you can connect it to what's happening in the market after the COVID-19, for example. The US interest rate has gone down. How it is going to impact the bond pricing, for example. So you give the concept via PowerPoints or give the information via your online learning platform, but further information or further extraction or further research on the topic will come through the Facebook. For example, Bloomberg will be publishing their chart on what's happening during the crisis period. For example, they will compare with 2008 financial crisis, and they will compare with the 2020 COVID-19, for example, and they will share the chart. Now, if you put that chart just on the PowerPoint slide, it will become one of the slides as well. But if you share the information about the research and how it is impacting the market using the social media, they might be more encouraged to click that link rather than clicking the link only on the slide, because slides are mostly for education purpose, and they will see that as one of those slides information, but they won't go for further information if you don't share it via the live channels or maybe the social media channels. I hope I make myself correct on this,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Khalid.
Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Alam.
Thank you.
There are many compliments on chat box also for you. So
Yeah.
thanks a lot for.
Sir, one question good evening. Good evening, Dr. Alam. I am Dr. Ketan Veera from GNVS Institute, Mumbai. Sir, I really appreciate your views on leveraging social media for education. It works. I am very much with you. But problem which I encounter, suppose the Gen Z who is into teaching, when they are on Facebook, the youth goes on Insta. Tomorrow, youth may go to some new platform, and then we'll observe that the Gen Z goes to Insta. So they'll always be one step ahead of us in using platforms. So how to overcome this problem, sir?
Thank you, Ketan. I see Max. Max is also smiling on the question. This is always a concern. Social media is also evolving. You always have a chance of a new platform coming up and suddenly becoming. I heard after the TikTok was banned in India, a new app came out which people were subscribing on like 500,000 on a daily basis. So there is always the evolution in the social media app. But coming to that, if you mention that people are moving towards Instagram or again, for example, like TikTok, not all of them will be utilized in the similar manner. So again, it's about the information sharing. You can't use Instagram definitely for learning purpose. Maybe you can use this for some humor during the classroom, maybe sharing a video or a photo on Instagram, but you can't really use for disseminating. So the key thing I was talking about is using the Facebook as well as the Twitter and LinkedIn. So these are one which academics can more use, even though the students are moving on Snapchats or moving on IG, Instagram, that cannot be used for the educational purpose. So it's not about always looking for the social media platform. It's about integrating the right social media platform into what are you teaching. For example, if you're teaching something on marketing or something on digital marketing, then Instagram might work better, because again you're looking at how tech savvy the consumers are, what type of screens they're looking at. But if you're talking about finance, I don't can think of anything on Instagram for finance people, but definitely you can look more on that on the Twitter and Facebook or maybe on the YouTube. So different specialization of the areas will differ in terms of using it. Insta is much more on the marketing side. I can see a lot of my marketing colleagues use Insta for their own teaching and research as well. So again, that's a caution we need to teach which one blend in properly with your curriculum or with your modules or specialization you are going for. I hope that answers, Ketan.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Professor Alam.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Parshuram Misra, a faculty in finance, Srishti Academy, Odisha, Bhubaneswar.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a question. Anyone can answer. Sir, how we can collect tasks from students in online teaching when we are teaching? Suppose I am teaching finance paper. So after teaching a chapter, I need to collect some tasks from students. Means they should work out some problems and to submit me. Now they are sending, writing in the paper and sending through WhatsApp, or sometimes I give Google Form. Any other ways or practices are there in other universities? I want to know.
Max, you can take on this.
Professor Max, Moodle and
It was breaking up a little bit as I was hearing. Can someone else just repeat?
So Max, question was apart from using the Google form and online submission, is there any other way to submit the student work through the online channel?
Yeah, this depends. So in US, it depends from school to school. There's like Sakai, Blackboard, e-learning, and so it depends on what platform you're in. So, but it requires a school. So it really falls on your administrators to implement a platform, and then everything, it's very seamless. But what I say probably will not be as relevant because it's actually probably a better question for Professor Goyal or Professor Alam. It's different. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Max. I'm looking many compliments for you also on, and it was a nice year. And I'm taking each question here. Sir, there are so hello.
One question.
There are so many options online for taking assignments, for questions, and for explaining all these. Google Classroom, we are very much using it, but you can use Edmodo. One platform, one option is there, Edmodo. You can download it. It's available free as well as a paid version, and that is very good for students' exercise and assignments and all. Of course, Google Classroom is also convenient mode. There are so many, not one or two.
Professor Goyal.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm from Delhi, RP Tulsian. Yes. May I ask question?
Tulsian, sir, welcome.
Sir, first of all, thank you very much. I heard this webinar, people very much online, and I enjoyed. So I am for those persons who supported online education. I am in the age of more than 65. I enjoyed much more than face-to-face lecture. This is one compliment to you.
Thank you, Professor Tulsian, sir.
Yeah.
You have always been supporting.
Yeah. My question is especially addressed to Asia Pacific Professor.
Professor Alam. Yes, from Professor Hafiz Alam. Please continue.
Opening batsman भी है. इन्होंने बहुत क्वेश्चन के जवाब दिए. I hope he will again face this ball also. Online ball. My question is, yes, I am with him that online teaching, social media use, etc. all are good. I am for it. My next worry is that now at the end of the semester, the examination has to be conducted, and that we wish to conduct online. I wish to know from his experience whether the online examination, final examination can be conducted efficiently, because we are in the trial stage. Can he throw some light on this issue, that how, because India is having large population of students, more than a country. So how to conduct that online examination? Because in the coronavirus COVID situation 19, we are facing this problem.
Thank you, Dr. Tulsian. I can share because at my university we have ran at least.
I have gone beyond the jurisdiction of the seminar. online examination.
No problem. It's connected,
It
Dr.
is within,
Tulsian.
sir.
It's connected to the discussion which we are having. So I
Yes.
was mentioning that we have gone through few round of examination already. There are different modes you can undertake. For example, it depends on the level of the study. For example, if you're taking about the level one, year one students of undergraduate, you might be looking at the MCQ using the Google form, or you can use the MS form. For example, the MCQ can be shuffled, so the student do not have a choice to even ask their friends via mobile phones or what. For example, for level 2, level 3, on for the masters one, you can look into the implication of the knowledge. For example, if you're learning about a topic on capital structure, you don't have to give a question on how to compute the cost of capital, cost of equity, and so on. Rather than you give a scenario and ask the student to evaluate. So these questions are not directly coming from the book. This is more like an implication or application of the concept which they have learned in the classroom. Now the assignment, which can be in the form of a essay writing or maybe in a small subsection question, can be submitted using Turnitin, which is a plagiarism detection software. And in that way, the student will not be able to copy the answers from the book or from the online material or from their friends as well. So again, the threshold level will be maybe 10 to 15% of the similar content, and you can even detect that. For many higher levels, you can even give a case study. For example, we ran case study especially for level 3s and for the master students, where you give them a 5 to 10 pages of case study on a firm raising a capital via equity market, for example. Give all the information and let the student analyze the scenario. That can be given for 1 or 2 weeks in advance, around the exam time, and the student can look at the information given, and they can analyze the scenario given, and they can come up with their own essay question. For example, like 50% weightage, we are asking the student to write around 3,000 words of submission, and then they can also submit via Turnitin, where they can be checked for the plagiarism. Now, these assessments are also in line with the professional bodies, especially if I'm leading the head of school of the accounting and finance. We deal with the professional bodies like ACCA, ICAW, and so on, and we got approval for all these. So these were the most prescribed and relevant way of assessing the student without even looking into the copying the content or checking from the books, or also asking the student, because very difficult. You cannot have an online exam on the real time basis because of the internet connectivity might be low. Some people will also face the problem of disconnectivity of the power, for example. We have a program in Nepal for our Asia Pacific University, and we got a feedback that we can't have a real time exam online because there's a lot of power cut in Nepal and they cannot submit the thing. So we have to revert to all these submission which will be given 1 week in advance. So you prepare your report, you submit via Turnitin, and then it can be assessed. So there is no harm. And the students are, and we don't see much difference. For example, like I have seen the average only go by 3 or 5% plus and minus. So I think this process has to be moderated, has to be looked carefully. The key thing is here is the learning objective. The question which are looking into the physical exam should measure the same learning objective in the online exam. That's the key thing which any educator or any university should look into while developing and organizing the exam for that. I hope this answers your question, Tulsian.
Professor Alam, I think your party substantially answered. I may just add one, because we are facing this problem during COVID. That is, it means you agree with us that the on real-time basis, online examinations cannot be conducted.
No, definitely you cannot have a real time basis because of the you cannot view everyone. If you open the camera for over 200 students, the net will also not be able to support. You will have a lot of lagging. It will not be easy because you can also have a issue of power cut, internet disconnectivity, and how you will compensate the student. It will be difficult. So physical time is very difficult. But yes, we can have physical time for a shorter version, maybe for 45 minutes or 1 hour, by giving a lesser number of questions, but still measuring the similar amount. But it not be suitable for all type of modules and all type of program.
Professor
Sir,
Tulsi
good
and
evening,
Professor
sir.
Max
Can
would
I
like
add?
to add something. Professor
Yeah,
Max,
Sir, good
please.
evening.
Yeah, I wanted to
Good
add
evening,
that,
sir.
the solutions that Professor Alam just mentioned, it may not be just like trying to fix the problem. Actually, I think his solution actually puts you ahead of where you started. You know, like given business cases and having students a week or two to complete, that stimulates the work environment way more than taking a test, right? If you're working for Amazon, you may have a project, and now it tests everything. Tests you being organized, being able to do some professional writing. It kind of brings it all together. So even if you go back and you can test in person, I say, think of what Professor Alam said. Maybe that's actually more optimal than just, relying so heavily on examinations.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, please.
Question that well use the term Indian Indian education industry. So how education is an industry? I want to know.
Voice is not audible, sir. Next can have a question here, then we can take you later.
Sir, very good evening.
Yes, please.
Sir, this is Lingareddy from Telangana State.
Okay, welcome.
Sir, I am very much pleased to hear beautiful words like blended learning and social media involvement. And now my concern regard to Professor Max, sir, now we are entering into a global learning perspective. I think there is a need to develop a international curriculum, particularly in business management and related aspects. What do you say, sir, about this?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And in Michigan, the students I work with, most of them have never been outside the country. Some have never even been much outside the state, and so we haven't had as much exposure to the international world. Even though that's exactly the way that the trend is moving, right? We're becoming more international. And so I think I'm already doing that, is starting to make my curriculum more international. Just get students to even, when we had Dr. Anurag speak to our students, there are all those things that we don't even realize of the culture itself, not just the finance part of it, but just the culture outside of the US. Like when it says, when you talk about luck, a lakh is 100,000. It's like, none of us, have even thought of it that way. So now it's like, it helps you just think in more ways than just your culture. So I'm all for it. But as you said, like that's the way that we are moving anyway. Especially COVID is forcing us to do that. So I mean, I agree 100%, and it goes back to I don't have the answer. I know it's a challenge, and I think we should be looking for solutions. And once we find them, I think we'll be way ahead than when we started. If Professor Goyal or Professor Alam has anything to add, I'd love to hear their thoughts.
Hello.
Thank you, Professor Max.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, now you are audible here. Please, who is?
Hello.
I am Dr. Vikas from Delhi.
Yes, Dr.
Hello.
Vikas. Please be little loud.
Yes, right. I am Dr. Vikas from Delhi. I am associated with one of the affiliated college of Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. I am from Don Bosco Technical Institution. My question can be anyone who can answer this. Because our institution, Don Bosco, they are basically into skill training for youth. Right. Now, so many programs related to mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and electronics being conducted in the institution, and those things are being conducted on machines only. So, what simulation techniques or something, some kind of practical experience we can give online to the students? Can anyone throw light on this?
I can share some experience from my university, which is having the faculty of engineering and faculty of computing and technology as well. There was always a concern with using the labs, especially with the engineering labs. You cannot bring everything back to virtual thing, especially when you need hands-on experience with that. But many of the solutions, especially designing and programming and coding, which can still be used on the virtual on the virtual software, for example remote access software. So most of the software these days are hosted on cloud, and it can be accessed anywhere with the university account. So programming and coding were taken care by using the remote access of the software. But when it comes to the engineering actual practicing, it was more on a design side, which was done until and unless the students were allowed to come back. So in Malaysia, we are fortunate enough that the government allowed the students who were doing the lab first to come back to the campus. So we got the student back in the campus, especially the year 3 students, and those students who were pretty much on the lab analysis. So those students were first to come back. But if you're going to have for a longer period, you really can't replicate the lab activities online. It's only the softwares which you can do, the design softwares or the programming coding, which can be hosted on the remote server, and that can be accessed. Unfortunately, there is no replication. It can be only done on the theory and designing part.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Alam.
Goel. Sir Goel.
Yes, please.
May I be permitted to comment on this? Professor Goel.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
yes.
Hello.
May I be permitted to comment on this?
Hello. Am I audible?
Hello.
You are not audible. Here,
Hello.
please.
Okay. Myself Khalid Azam.
TB Sharma Sahib is
Hello?
sharing something. Yes. Just a moment. TB Sharma Sahib is.
The solution of these experiments in the laboratory is in the pipeline. And the augmented reality, virtual reality is the answer to this. And very soon we will be having this, because the aviation training, all the medical training, then military training, they are on the augmented platform. So yes, the solution is there.
Okay. Addition in previous question here. There are solutions with the training programs. With the next one here. Please unmute yourself and ask your question after introducing.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello. My question is to Professor Mittal sir. Sanjeev Mittal sir.
Yes, please continue.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please continue.
Okay. Mittal sir, my question is that both faculty members who are at the advanced stage of their career, they need a special type of training because they are not accustomed with all these type of technologies, and they face this problem. Whenever they have to prepare the lecture, they have to ask for the assignments. They are not confident also that whatever their students' assignments are submitting, they will be able to, or they are really being submitted by them, or they are taking help from some members in the family. Because last time in our university, the university asked us to go for this assignment. And one student complained that how will you ensure that this assignment has been prepared by the student himself, or it has not been helped by some member in the family who is a chartered accountant or the cost accountant who could have helped him in accounting and finance. So sometimes we face this problem on the side of the faculty. They are not accustomed with that. Their training is required. And at the same time, such type of situations are coming where the students are complaining on the authenticity of the assignment which has been submitted. How to counter these two different aspects? This is my concern. Sanjeev Mittal sir.
Kindly ask the questions to the experts. Probably he's left. I don't know whether he's there or not, but please, as a matter of discipline.
I think Professor Gayal is speaking, but you're muted, please. Professor Gayal.
Yeah.
I think you're muted.
Sir, good evening.
Okay. My question is, hello. Dolensky
Sir, this is Sandeep.
Khalid Azam,
This
sir.
is Sandeep,
Ask a question.
Haryana.
Wait, let Mohammed Khalid Azam, sir, ask his. Yes, sir.
My question is to Professor Max, because he has given all these, the same question I am repeating. that there are faculty members who are at the advanced stage of their career. They may be 60 years or something of age, and they are not very much familiar with technology, whatever we are using in terms of the use of PPT and the different media. Because for teaching purposes, it requires a special type of skill. And so the training of the trainer, I think this is the first step which is required. And my second question is that when the students they are submitting their assignment, some students they have already complained that how are you going to authenticate that this assignment has not been helped by some member in the family, and the candidate has done it at his own, and so there was no answer on that. So I want your comment.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Yeah. So I'll answer this. I'll start with the second question. The first one you may have to repeat. But the second question, it is a very difficult question. I don't have a perfect answer for you. So, but and it depends how big your class is. So if the class is 30 students, right? So for me, if I can make the time and I can gauge all my students, then I will have a pretty good idea. I know everyone's name. If I have synchronous classes, I'm having a discussion with them. Now, if it's someone's cousin the whole time taking the course, then they can get away with it, right? And I wouldn't know. But this is actually also builds on my question I had for Professor Goyal, is if he thinks how he would compare synchronous versus asynchronous. I think with asynchronous, it will be easier to do that, for somebody else to start helping you out. With the synchronous, our goal is not to force students. You have to learn. Our ideal goal is to inspire, and motivate students to learn. And so, that should be really like the goal that we are striving for. And the answer is not easy, but what I'm doing and what works is when you get to know the student. So I know every student's name, right? And I go beyond that. I know if the student, when they graduate, if they're looking for a job, I'll inquire about that. And oftentimes they'll say like, oh wow, like once they see that, they get inspired. They start working more. They want to do well. So I mean, this is a bit of idealistic, and and I'm sure some students take advantage of maybe of me, and the work is not authentic. But the students who had someone else complete their work and get the grade, all they took from me is a grade. That's it. What they miss, the students who choose to engage you, who choose to be authentic and work hard, I mean, for them, they just gain so much more than a grade, right? And many of them, will like thank me later, saying thank you, like, you helped me get my first job, you helped me succeed in my job. And so really, it's, like your question is very difficult to answer if the goal is to make sure that the grade, that the assessment is proper. That's a hard problem to fix. But I will say that's not even as big of a problem as you think. Yes, if someone gets an A, or that they shouldn't bid. But if we go back and we engage our students and we inspire them and we motivate them, you will have this top, students, and you'll have many of them. They will be authentic. They will engage you, and then and they will get a lot more from you than a grade. But I would like for Professor Goyal to weigh in on synchronous versus asynchronous, because for synchronous, I think we can do a lot more of this. But then the problem is with accessibility. Accessibility is because now some students, if you have poor connection or you're working all the time, you may be at disadvantage.
Yes, Professor Max. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
You have two questions here, and first is still unanswered. Let me share my view. You asked that many of the faculty members are at the worth of 60 or 50 or more than 50 plus here, and how they can adopt the technology. I would like to share you with my own experience here. Now everyone, it is only the willingness here. It's not the age barrier to learn a technology. In any age or any period of time, we can learn technology. I was not aware about this online teaching and learning. I put 2 months to learn the technology, and I, with proud, I can say I'm known to all the systems, all the platforms, and all the systems available to most of the, not all, most of the systems. Yeah. Mendeley I use, Google Classroom I use, so many Moodles, so many platforms are there to teach. Yeah. So at any age of time, at any phase, we can learn technology. Simply we have to remove this tag that I am at a age of 60. And I have a live example, Dr. C.B. Sharma Saab. I always call him Professor C.B. Sharma Saab. He is regularly, even after the retirement, superannuation, he is only the technology. He did too many courses. Yeah. One postgraduate courses he did and got gold medalist. He is on the platform. Yeah. So any age we can learn, and remaining as far as assignment is concerned, and the, like anyone is doing, so our purpose is to evaluate the student. Yeah. And there are so many ways, as Professor Alam has already shared, that we can give that type of questions which needs analysis, analytical ability, which a student can only do and can only perform. In my college, for my MBA students, like we are asking them to submit their assignment on in handwritten notes. They have to scan and they have to submit. Even whatever whomsoever is doing, if they are writing, they are learning. Our purpose is to make the students learn. If they are learning, we can evaluate, and it is a relative grading. So we can give them relative grading accordingly. I think Dr. C.B. Sharma Saab can put some light on this issue.
Thank you very much for the
30 seconds,
comprehensive
C.B.
answer.
Sharma Saab.
For the comprehensive answer, whatever you have given, I am really happy to that. Only
Thank you.
thing
Thank
is
you.
that when we have in the last semester, when we have given this assignment, the complaint from the student when they started to come, that how are you going to ensure that this has not been helped by some chartered accountant who is there in his family during this COVID period and he has not helped him. Then I was really shocked to know that, okay, the student, they will be using such type of things also for the purpose of giving the answer. That's why this question I have put it. Your answers are very correct. Whatever you have said
There are
about
drawbacks
that,
in technology, of course.
about the age factor and all that. We are still learning, and I have joined this course for the purpose of learning itself. Zoom was there. Now we are using Zoom, and I think that is very effective in dealing with these courses. But even in that case, explaining certain type of calculations to the student at that time, that becomes difficult. So that's why what we have done, sometimes we are sending
Sir, there are
audio notes.
many drawbacks of technology, but this is the crisis management here. And in crisis management, we have to manage the things here. This will not continue forever. Even we are, our government is promoting first year students in second year without evaluating. You are asking for similar, we are promoting without taking examination here. So this is crisis management. So there is no answer of this. This is a crisis management. And in crisis management, whatever the resources available, we have to use. It will be criticized and it will be appraised. Both will be there. So thank you. And next question is there. If there is any question, we'll take two last questions here. If anyone is having questions, only two questions, and then we'll wind up the session here.
Thank you very much from my side.
Can I add on what Professor Gayal said? So I was confused by the first question because I didn't understand why being 60 years old somehow makes you incapable of doing technology. So I was genuinely confused by the question because I believe, like Professor Gayal said, it's a matter of the will, right? It's, so if you want to, you can learn that, and no one's asking you to, go out and run a marathon. Or it's, physical, it's mental. And, we can ask Professor Alam to confirm that if there is any social media that, that once you're past a certain age, you're incapable of using social media anymore, right? But I was very confused with the
new
question.
phase of learning started after 60. After 60, a new life.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. I want to ask one question.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
This is Sandeep Jangda from Haryana.
Yes,
sir.
Sir.
In colleges and in universities, it's
Please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Your voice is missing. Please unmute.
Sir, at school, sir, in college or university level, practical, it's possible to take online classes. What about the school's point of view? It is the battle of school versus parents and teacher versus school management. And what about the Indian parents' mindset? Online teaching, they think that online teaching is a dhakosla. What is this? How we can change the mindset of the parents?
Yes, sir. May I think I should answer because this is with Indian reference here. Professor Alam is there, but he'll be answering in Malaysia's term. The question is from India, so I should answer it.
Please answer. But I think you need to have another webinar of 2-3 hours to answer this question,
Of
because
course. So only last one question we'll be taking, then we'll wind up. After this, one more can be taken up. So your question is very much right, that for the students, actually, Professor Sanjeev Mittal has given your answer in his lecture, that this online learning is a time gap arrangement. It is a crisis. COVID will not continue forever, and COVID will not come again. So this is a crisis management, and under this crisis management, whatever the tools and whatever the resources available to us, we have to do it. Means we have to do what best we can do in available. Even in schools here, many schools are doing better, and they are delivering their lectures through online platforms like she is taking classes on Zoom every day 2 hours here. So even in school and college, it makes no difference. The online delivery is possible, and this is, I say, this is a crisis management because of COVID-19. COVID will not continue forever. So whatever the things will normal, the normal education will come up and will be in the face-to-face or whatever the best platform we have, we can use it. It makes no difference even students or, of course, there can be a problem with a small child school. So their phase is of playing, and they can play at home, and their parents can teach them. Not necessary to go to school and depend on teachers. Very small classes, but medium classes and upper classes, they can have online learning. And of course, this is simply a crisis management. And last question, if anyone have. So thank you one and all present on this platform. This is a endless debate and discussions. We all are academicians joining here. What my feeling is, conferences never get an end. Conferences only started and go on. The purpose is to disseminate the knowledge. So this is not an end of conference. This is start of a new conference and new debates. So we'll debate on other platforms. So today's session we are closing here, but not the debate. We can talk on, we can continue on other social media platforms, which Professor Alam has discussed in detail. And he's master of this subject. He is having too much of literature. He needs even one conference, Dr. Kshitiz, is required with one expert only, Professor Alam, and one is Professor Max only. So this is simply a teller. Picture abhi baki hai, and we can have a longer session, means of one speaker at one time.
I will just translate for Max. Professor Goel said this is just the beginning. The whole picture is yet to be seen. So I can relate to what Professor Goel is saying. At least, thank you for reminding me of Indian days. I still miss those conversations. Thank you very much.
So thank you, and now over to Dr. Kshitij to.
Thank you so much to all the three eminent speakers, the organizers, and most importantly, a big thanks to all the participants. See, we had house full almost all the time. Thank you so much for such a warm response. Thank you all. We'll just conclude this session and meet tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For the
Thank you.
speakers, all the three eminent speakers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
so much.
Next
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All the eminent speakers.
Sir, what about the feedback link?